Welcome and thank you so much for joining me for this week's Cloud Title Tip of the Week. Today I want to talk about absentee owner fraud, which is one of the largest growing fraud sectors, if you want, other than wire fraud in the real estate industry. And how does it work? Fraudsters search properties that ideally have no mortgage and that are owned by an absentee owner that lives either out of state or out of the country, in most cases out of the country. And then they pretend to be that owner, hire a realtor to list the property for sale, and then it goes on the contract. And then they produce fraudulent documents to effectuate the closing. I can go all the way to fraudulent passport images and fraudulent notaries where it looks like a notary at an embassy in Germany or England actually executed and notarized the document. So these schemes are very, very sophisticated, and that brings about the issue of liability. If you're a real estate agent and you take a listing and you don't verify that the owner is actually the owner, then that could bring significant liability for you as well as for the title company, of course. And so at Cloud Title, we always take extra steps. Anytime a property is not owner occupied, we will make sure that we can find out if that owner actually owns the property. I can tell you that this year alone, and this is a young year, we're in April now, we've had about a dozen transactions where we flagged this and prevented fraud from happening. So what can you do as a real estate professional? When somebody contacts you to list a property, and I talked about this before, you really need to make sure that you know who owns that property. So go into Realist on the MLS and or go into the official records and see who actually owns the property. What was the last deed to the property? And Cloud Title, of course, will provide you with a vesting deed. But you want to make sure before you list the property that you know who owns it. And if the owner is in Germany, or the owner is in another country, or the owner is in Illinois or Michigan or somewhere, make sure you look them up, Google them, try to find them, and make sure that whoever you're communicating with is the actual owner. And I highly would recommend that you do at least a FaceTime or Zoom meeting with that person, so you actually have a video call and get a good feeling for who that person is. Now, these frauds started originally a couple of years ago to come on the radar with vacant lots in the Naples, Fort Myers, Cape Coral area. And since then, they have graduated. And a couple of months ago, I had a conversation with the managing broker at Sotheby's in Sarasota, and there were properties on Longboat Key that they were trying to sell. And these fraudsters are getting more and more sophisticated. We've received fraudulent passports. And one way to catch these people is when you're dealing with a foreign person, ask them for multiple forms of ID, at least a passport and a government-issued driver's license or ID card. And if somebody is in Europe, virtually every person has a passport and virtually every person has a government ID, which is mandatory, in addition to a driver's license. So if somebody just sends you a passport, but they refuse to send you a driver's license or something else, then that is a warning flag right there. And again, if you have a piece of ID and you're not sure, feel free to send it to me and I'll be happy to take a look at it. I'm originally from Germany, so I know what European IDs look like. And I've gone as far as contacted the consulate for the country and sent them the copies of the ID to see if it is actually genuine. And anytime we felt that it was fraudulent, it actually ended up being fraudulent. So if you're a real estate agent and the title company is pushing for that, don't be upset with them. They're looking to protect you as well. And if somebody comes to you with a listing opportunity, of course, that's super exciting. And you want to make sure that the person actually owns the property. Now, with Cloud Title, of course, we have the Safe Listing Program, which protects the seller and you as a listing agent at no extra cost. And you basically submit your title order when you take the listing, and we'll get to work right away. And if there's anything fishy, then you'll know long before a contract is written. So absentee owner fraud is a real thing. If you have any questions, message me, direct message me, or comment here to the post. I will respond. And as always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. Have a fantastic weekend. Until next Friday, I'm Thomas Heimann with Cloud Title.